Now, Sadiq Khan is under fire once again after attempting to take credit for improvements in London's air quality, a bit like cleverly with the weather. City Hall said a new report showed the effectiveness of ULEZ policies in tackling pollution and underlined the reasons for extending the zone to cover the whole of London as of the 29th of August this year. But the report showed that improvements in air quality between 2019 and 2022 from lowering motor vehicle pollution happened even before the expansion of the ULEZ throughout the capital. So, is Sadiq Khan once again trying to steal the credit? Well, the man who can answer that question has joined me now. And I'm joined by London Mayoral candidate for the Reform Party and the founder of Fair Fuel UK, Howard Cox. Howard, always a pleasure. I'm no rocket scientist, but to claim that ULEZ is the equivalent of all of London's airports seems to me plain crazy. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. We got yet another report where it should be written by Hans Christian Andersen. The thing about this report, Martin, is that it's come from a company that's got a dubious reputation. It's very anti-driver. And to quote a review I've read recently, this is a dangerously misleading consultancy. So here we go again. I mean, what's happening with Sadiq Khan? He's actually tried to entice Imperial College to give him the results he wanted. He asked TfL to actually do something about it. But fundamentally, every time he's done it, they've come back saying ULEZ is not making much difference to the air quality in London, and most certainly, in making no difference to the air quality in the extension out to the M25. The man is clutching at straws. And let me give you an example about this. In the report, it says there's something like 13,500 tonnes of NOx has been reduced in those 3 years, 2019 to 2022, and 180 tonnes of particulate matter, the 2.5 microns, are dangerous little buggers that actually can cause lung problems. But let's just put this in perspective. Emissions of nitrogen oxides, and I'm reading this from a scientific report that's been peer-reviewed, have already fallen by 77% since 1970. There was no ULEZ in the last 40 or 50 years, and it's fallen by 677,000 tonnes, nearly 750,000 tonnes. And it's nothing to do with ULEZ. So these figures, I'm afraid he is clutching at straws.
So, Howard, the point here basically is that due to cleaner burn vehicles being replaced by newer models, that happens naturally anyhow. And due to a background industry, we're burning less coal, we're generally cleaner irrespective of any government policy. This is happening anyhow, a bit like James cleverly trying to claim credit for the weather, stopping dinghies landing in Britain. Ostensibly, pollution was going down any road, and Khan, claiming it's ULEZ, is claiming credit for something that was already happening anyway with nothing to do with him. Is that correct?
Absolutely right. We're clean fuel technology. For example, I'll give you an example. The HGV industry, lorries and trucks, have halved their emissions in the last 10, 15 years. And that's done simply because of cleaner fuel technology, better fuel technology, the vehicle technology itself, all these sort of things, cleaner emission burns. We all want clean air, but you don't do it by hitting people in the pocket with a £12.50 coming in to London. And with trucks and things, you're looking at £100 every time they come in. I mean, don't forget, Khan has a track record with the truth, and I'm really worried. And one thing I've written today to Sir Keir Starmer: why is he still backing a dishonest mayor in London? He's got to remove him from the Labour Party because that man is not telling the truth.
And Howard, as far as ULEZ in a wider capacity, obviously we're seeing it put its tendrils into other towns. We're seeing it put its tendrils into other towns. OK, we've lost Howard. I was going to ask him this basic question. Keir Starmer, well, certainly his deputy leader, Angela Rayner, was on a news channel, and she said that ULEZ would come to every town and city in the UK if Labour was voted into power. So my worry, we've already seen ULEZ and clean air zones, their equivalents, put their tendrils across places like Norwich and Oxford. And so my point is, will this go everywhere? And this science that keeps putting forward TfL's own data. They're marking their own homework. It's a study commissioned by themselves, which is clearly put out. Howard, quickly, if we could, my concern about this is that the Labour Party hasn't sufficiently distanced itself from ULEZ. In fact, Angela Rayner said we may see it in every town and city in the country. Do you think Labour's sitting on its hands on this one once again, sitting on the fence, because it could roll out if they were to come into power?
Yes, there are a few exceptions. Andy Burnham in Manchester said he's not going to introduce clean air zones. Maybe that's because he's up for election next year too, and maybe this is political expediency again. But it is going to come everywhere because most of the cities, the big cities, are actually controlled by Labour, and they are wedded to net zero. And they see net zero, particularly the drivers, as the antichrist, and the way to actually, one, to raise a lot of money, and two, they think that's the route to cleaner air quality. It's absolute rubbish. And Marty, you've hit the nail on the head. They're marking their own homework, and they're not actually doing any independent research completely that's verified and peer reviewed. And that's what I'm going to do with this report.
OK, thank you very much, Howard Cox, mayoral candidate for the Reform Party for London, and of course the founder of Fairfuel UK. I'm glad we got you back for that final bit there. Now, in response to the claim, Sadiq Khan has had this to say. The decision to expand the ULEZ was not something I took lightly, but when confronted by the evidence, it was clear that clean air zones like these are the most effective way to cut toxic air and meaningfully protect people's health. In a few short years, the ULEZ has prevented tens of thousands of tonnes of toxic nitrogen oxide emissions from being released, and the London-wide expansion is enabling 5 million more Londoners to breathe cleaner air. That's Sadiq Khan's response.